looking into the watch list for the coming week, starting on the DXY on the daily time frame, we see that price tapped into this area of interest and showed strong bullish momentum in this area. So right now it looks more like we might continue for the next leg up again. Therefore, my basic theme for next week will be US dollar long plays. However, looking on the lower time frame, we see here we still have a small liquidity area which we have to overcome first. So there is still a chance that the dollar might tap into this area and continued sell-off. But as soon as we clear this area, there will be room to the upside. So we will get an answer at the beginning of the week, most likely very early. There is an option for a slight small continuation here for a direct move up and completely ignoring this area. But on the overall, my overall bias is clearly dollar long at this time, with these two strong bullish candles at the end of the week in a significant area here. Looking into the first US dollar pair, Euro US dollar, starting on the daily time frame, we see we tapped into a smaller area of interest. It's not the main value area here, but it's still kind of a significant area here. So we tapped into it and sold off. The last two daily candles show very strong bearish momentum, the same like the DXY. So I'm looking here on the lower time frame for a continuation short. We see we had a structural approach into this area of interest here with the 1, 2, 3 expanding structure before we then started to sell off. Initially with the squeeze, and price towards the end of the week gained some momentum and is now forming a continuation pattern. So I'm waiting for this pattern to finish, potentially tapping into this small liquidity point here before selling off. Continuing with Australian dollar US dollar, also on the daily time frame, we see we had here a bigger squeeze, a bigger consolidation. Price broke out but did not reach anything, started to turn around somewhere in no man's land, but it seems like it's gaining momentum in the last few days. And here, very similar to the euro, we go to the 1 hour time frame. We see price finally started to gain some momentum after this sideways consolidation here for quite some time, and it formed a small continuation pattern on top of this small liquidity point, which was also the start of this longer sideways consolidation, and going back here, and started now to form some form of continuation pattern. I'm waiting for this structure to finish and give me a clear entry for a continuation short. Pound US dollar is slightly different because my bias is not very clear yet. It's kind of a wild card. We see here on the daily as well, we still have this higher time frame value area here to reach. However, it tapped into this liquidity point here and started to sell off. We're still above this previous high, and for me I see two potential scenarios which I would be fine either way. So either price is bouncing from this liquidity area here and forming a 3-touch structure for continuation long, or more likely and more preferable with the overall bias of dollar longs, pound will sell off a little bit further and starting to form some form of consolidation below this liquidity point for an entry short. New Zealand dollar, US dollar, same again. We are clearly on the higher time frame. We can clearly see we are in a downwards momentum and are looking on the 1 hour for a continuation short. Price broke the previous low here and started to form a first small consolidation into a consolidation here. So we are waiting for some clear price action to continue short. The next one is US dollar CAD. US dollar CAD, I'm clearly long biased. So overall, we see we are still in a range. So it's kind of a range play at the moment. But we do see that price tapped into the low here and formed a nice daily rejection and gained some momentum. In here, I had a mistrade last week. I forecasted a continuation long, but did miss the trade on the 1 hour. There is a video up if you want to have a closer look to that. So right now I'm looking for a continuation long. We see we still have a gap here, so at least to the first area of interest here, but with the overall higher goal would be this value area here. On the 1 hour, we see here price broke out and formed a consolidation above this small liquidity point here, and now is a bit undecided, so it's lost slight momentum here. So what I'm looking for is a retrace into this area, or even basically retesting this structure here before continuation long. The next pairs are Swiss francs pairs, so I'm expecting Swiss francs to get stronger. Risk off approach, so with dollars getting stronger, Swiss franc is getting stronger, and then we will see also the Japanese yen might get stronger. On the daily, we see here Australian dollar Swiss francs is somewhere in no man's land right now. It left the gap to the higher time frame value area here, but has still room to go before we can expect some form of reaction in price movement. So what I'm looking for right now is to finish this run here to the low. On the lower time frame, that would mean something like finishing this continuation bear flag for the next, to finish the next leg down. New Zealand dollar Swiss francs is basically the same. It just moved already a little bit further, so it's slightly cleaner than Australian dollar Swiss francs, but it's basically the same. We still have some room to go for price into this value area, more significant higher time frame value area before we can expect some form of rejection. There is a low here to consider, but even just a run from here to here is definitely worth it. So on the lower time frame, we see exactly the same like Australian dollar Swiss francs. I will just see which one gives me the better entry, if at all, but I'm looking for something like another structure into this liquidity point here, and then a short from here. Pound Swiss francs, same again. We see again here we have an area of interest plus a value area here on the higher time frame. We left the gap, and we left the gap to the upside. We left the gap to the downside, plus we left the gap to the upside. Price turned around somewhere in no man's land, but started with nice momentum with 2 daily candles and is now forming indecisive consolidation, which, if we get on the lower time frame, a clear structure for the next move to the downside. So here I'm just waiting for finishing basically the structure, going back into the small liquidity point for a sell-off. New Zealand dollar yen, on the higher time frame, we see New Zealand, actually all the yen pairs started to gain some momentum, so it tapped into the high. We are here on the weekly, so it tapped really into a higher time frame value area and started now to sell off with 2 weeks in a row. So I'm expecting a continuation short here, moving straight down to the 1 hour, seeing that we don't have anything significant here on the left side. Price is forming a consolidation just on top of this small liquidity point you saw on the left side, or area of interest to the left side. So what I'm looking right now is for price to finish some form of bear flag structure, preferably into this liquidity point here, or even back testing this low here, or slightly higher, and then giving an entry for a continuation short. Pound yen, we see we still have some more room to the upside, so it's not as clear as Kiwi yen before, which is clearly coming from a value area. So pound yen here is kind of turning around in no man's land between 2 significant value areas. However, if the yen is getting stronger, pound yen will also is more likely to sell off. But we see here already, compared to New Zealand dollar before, there is less momentum right now, and we are basically going from a consolidation into a consolidation. But nevertheless, on the lower time frame, jump straight to the 1 hour. If we see this structure finishing, there's nothing wrong with taking a pound yen to the downside at the moment in these market conditions. Then Euro New Zealand, that's one which I just have kind of a wild card. On the higher time frame, we see we had a crazy run in momentum. So this was like a 4+ % move, will be a 4.5% move more or less, without any significant break in between at all. So we will tap here into a higher time frame value area. So what I'm looking for here is for a short-term short, even overall in a risk off environment. Euro will get stronger, and New Zealand dollar as a commodity currency is more likely to get weaker. So overall bias is still long. The momentum is also clearly long. However, after such a impulsive move to the upside, there might be a short-term short just before forming some form of bigger continuation here. And even a short-term short just into the low of the structure would already be something like more than 1%, so around 200 pips. So definitely worth to consider if the price action is clear. Yeah, that's it. So these are my pairs for next week. To sum up, I think that DXY is still in an area where he could turn around, but with a very strong bullish candles towards the end of the week, I see a more shift into a risk off environment. Therefore, US dollar long plays are the way to go. Swiss franc long plays as well, and even Japanese is starting to get more attractive, since it really is in the second week, actually going into the third week for a turnaround. So we might see some momentum in the Japanese yen as well. And here with Euro New Zealand dollar, a potential short trade against the overall bias. So yeah, I hope you gained some value from it, and see you next week.